Hello, internet friends. I'm Robert. I'm a designer and I work at Crafty Devil over in lovely East Belfast. Just like to start off by saying we work in a really fast-paced industry. Looking at the work we did a year ago can make us cringe. Trends change rapidly. The technology we use to implement solutions, they're evolving daily. Andy has asked me to come along and talk about the ways in which I've changed as a designer and a person. I hope you find it interesting and we can have a chat about it later after several beers. Thank you for coming along. It means a lot, especially all the Everton fans in here that missed the chance of sticking 4 past the head. Right, that's all the sports references, but yeah, I'm really excited that my photo didn't put you off on the website. Thanks for that, Andy. Still got it. Like good design, I think form is dependent on context. My form is a result of the context of my life, all the decisions I've ever made along the way, and all the influences I've ever had. I think one of the strongest influences is probably my parents. My dad was an electronics engineer. I say was, he's retired, he's not dead. Some of his work included electronic systems and went on to be in the DeLorean, which is pretty cool. So yeah, I'm going to start with a story about that. It's a summer, mid-80s, and our family has just got its first computer. Can anyone guess what the computer is? No. Earlier? Yes. Acorn Atom. It's connected to a really small monochrome screen. And I was completely fascinated by it. My dad got it so he could teach himself assembly programming, which is, any developers will tell you, is pretty fucking hard. He would work on little games, and he would leave them for me, and I could operate the cassette loader, play them. My dad came in from work, I'd give him feedback on the games, and didn't really think much of that one. Too easy. Little did I know that that was really my first role as an interactive designer. And also my first time collaborating with developers. And this was in the 80s. Gifted. Jordan Moore retweeted this a couple of weeks ago. It's by Josh Clark, and he tweeted it during an event apart in Washington. This tweet just summed up a lot of stuff that was in my head about interaction design and how I got here. The tweet itself is more related to the skills and problem-solving conventions that we use when we're playing games and how that can be applied to our lives. To succeed in a game, you have to pass by, you have to do things in a certain order, you have to be responsive to the environment you're in. With all this hindsight, I've noticed that games are the reason that I inadvertently get into web design. Somewhere around 97, I became obsessed with a game called Quake. Any Quake fans in? You? IDKFA? That was Doom, sorry. Impulse 9, flat out. So I was playing Quake Deathmatch quite a bit, as you do. And I found that I was trying to express myself a bit more, and I stumbled upon a guide to teach me how to skin characters. It was a really hard thing to do at the time. You were limited to a certain color palette, so it meant that you had to use a tool like Paintshop Pro or Photoshop. I got my legitimately acquired copy of Photoshop, started playing about with it, started exporting different skins and uploading them onto a website that I just created to share with the world. I got reasonably competent at Photoshop and even started building my own 3D maps and stuff for Quake. I added them to my website. It got quite a bit of traffic. Of course, by today's standard, the website wasn't great. But it taught me a lot and got me enthusiastic about technology, computers as a whole, and the depth of the community that forms the web. if you played games back in the day, you'll probably remember the naivety and the fun of it all. And that's kind of something that this tweet summed up to me. Harking back to those days and just doing things for the sake of it, being creative and not really caring what the boundaries were and just doing things. It's funny how reading that to me can just spark all those memories. So design really wasn't my chosen career, as you'll be shocked to hear. I've always been envious of people that knew what they wanted to do earlier on. I didn't. I kind of stumbled from one thing to another. And I think it's because I find the present all too absorbing. I thought that maybe I wanted to do something involving science, computers, law, something like that, juggling it all up and down. A last-minute decision saw me changing my course from Business and Information Systems at Queen's to study interactive multimedia design at Jordanstown / the Art College. First year didn't really do much for me. Found the course very general and not the best kind of teaching. But from what I hear, they're doing good things there and it's got a lot better. The second year, I really found my feet. I was really inspired by one lecturer in particular, Liam McComish. He taught a module on information design. His kind of insights into typography and color theory really made me think about design in a different way, and I got gently introduced to web standards and the whole web standards movement that was going on at the time. I started reading books by wee Jeffrey Zeldman and Dan Cederholm, very kind of stoic weights that I looked up to. Not saying that Jeffrey Zeldman's a stoic weight or anything. And to me, that CSS no longer became this melody language that I used to change link colors. It became a melody language that I used to lay out pages and control typography. It was basically a puzzle every time I used it, but I grew to love it and its intricacies. I really completely rewired how I approach web design then. So standards, CSS, all good stuff. I graduated in 2006 with the wee sneaky 2-1. And with a real passion for standards-based design, and I consider myself a good all-rounder because I could work Flash too. In September 2006, if you know that, you can probably work out how old I am. I started working at SEA, or the Northern Ireland Council for Curriculum, Education and Assessment. SEA is just easier to say. In the Outliers, Malcolm Gladwell states that it takes roughly 10,000 hours to become an expert in a field. I see this as at the point where I put in my 10,000 hours. I was exposed to clients, work within deadlines and manage resources, some really strict technological limits like IE6 and 800 by 600, fun like that. Time at SEA was great. We shipped lots and lots of websites, but I had this overall general feeling that the work I was doing was cyclical. It was the same each year. We were optimizing sites depending on curriculum content. Really, nothing much was changing there. In 2009, I had an opportunity to move to the University of Ulster to work on researching and designing the innovative tools for e-learning. It was a lot more fun than it sounded. So I spent a year there, and this really bootstrapped my understanding of user experience and putting the user first. It was actually a great program, but vastly underfunded, and we couldn't really make much of an impact to what the university were doing at the time. The work was quite methodical and gave me massive insights into how to formalize requirements, how to research, and also how to prototype and assess the quality of a solution before even designing anything, which is something I'd never even considered before. It was always just get into Photoshop as quickly as possible, illustrate it, show it to the client and ship it. But this was more methodical, more process-based, and ultimately shaped how I'd approach work in years to come. It also tied in with a conference that started in 2009 by a man called Andy McMillan. So Build happened. This was like a massive wake up to me. I look at my life in two phases now. Pre-build, post-build. Yeah. Love axes. So everything I was excited about felt new again. My work had taken a heavy educational slant. It wasn't as rewarding as I thought it could be, and I was starting to be exposed to like all this cracking iPhone stuff and thinking, I want to do some of that nice UI stuff. So yeah, being exposed to that, great. Also with build, thanks. This, to me, I think probably one of the most important parts of it. I got to reconnect with university friends. I got to find out where they were at in their career and make connections there. So I was just putting myself back on the radar saying, you know, this research project I'm working on, it's only funded for so long. What are you doing? Yeah, anything opening up in your place? So it was kind of good. It was a good opportunity. When I stopped working at the university, I freelanced for a bit for educational clients. It was all just an excuse so that I could say, I have an accountant. Look, Mum, it's legit. Freelancing is tough, and I really admire anyone who can do it and make a living at it. I tried for 3 months, and I got enough work okay. It was just the money side of things. It was scary. I had a mortgage at the time, still do have a mortgage. But one day a payment, and yeah, your credit rating's screwed. I got scared. So I went looking for a job, and I was reached out to by a good friend, and I started working in Blue Cube during the 2010 World Cup, I think it was. Yeah, it was good. Associate everything to football. It was an amazingly good experience for me. I thought I was a competent front-end designer and developer. I kind of relearned everything really quickly. I was good, but I wasn't as good as these guys. They were taking in briefs on a Monday and shipping the site by a Tuesday night. It was unbelievable, the pace. Relearned everything so quickly, and I think it developed myself as a person in coping with that, and also being able to keep up with Fenton because he's so good. A recent article on this apart has this quote from Hannah Donovan. It really stood out to me. She was talking about the limits imposed by services such as Twitter and Instagram and how people would hack around them just to get a little bit more creative. There have been books published with recipes containing less than 140 characters. People use Instagram with multiple shots in diptych, and they even use multiple exposure to get more creativity than Instagram will permit them. So within these very constrained environments, we're able to do very creative things. And I think that's massively important in our industry, that we may see things that a client is imposing on us, and we may try and push back against it, saying, I'm not going to support that, or the opposite, and just refuse to do the work. I don't think we can do that. There's an opportunity to be creative at every opportunity. That didn't make sense, sorry about that. I'll take a sip. Yeah, so there's opportunities to be creative no matter what the atmosphere or circumstance. The modern designer. This is coming from some of my personal history. I think it's a tricky subject. Designers have lots of different skills, obviously, and lots of vastly changing job titles. In my career so far, I've been a designer / developer, an educational technologist, a designer, a creative developer, and most recently, UI/UX lead. To me, these are all just titles, but our process remains largely the same. Client requirements go in, solutions come out. I don't think any designer is bigger than the sum of the team that they work within. Our job is to be communicators and to fit in with the culture in an organization. We shouldn't be defined by our job titles. Well, not too much anyway. Besides being able to communicate well, I expect designers to have a strong visual style and be strong with layout and adhering to brand guidelines. The modern designer should be able to execute. I'm not saying that they need to be a full-blown front-end developer, but they should at least have the competency to make their visuals come to life in HTML and CSS, or at least communicate the intention in some form of prototyping. It's difficult, it's a hard thing to do, but I think that the industry we're in now demands that of us. It demands it of us. Guinness isn't very good for like wetting your mouth, it just makes you more thirsty. This is another quote that I kind of empathize with a lot recently. We're working on a more demanding web than we were 5 years ago. Mobile traffic is on the increase. Ethan Marcotte has coined a revolution with responsive web design, and it's up to us to adapt our workflows and keep up with the demand. Responsive web design is hard. I don't think there's a fluffier way of saying that. It requires the effort, it requires the skill to get better at it, and we're going to have to work at it like we did with the nuances at CSS at the turn of the century. I don't think it's something we can ignore. I'm going to talk a bit now about my time at Crafty Devil. I'm still there. I'm not resigning, I promise. So Crafty Devil was founded in 2006 by Mr. Rich Dale and Mr. Phil Norton. Initially the guys were a web design and development studio, but somewhere in and around 2010 they made a transition into developing web applications for businesses and also for ourselves. I've been working as UI/UX lead at Crafty Devil since April. I wanted to work on products. When I say products, I mean applications that run on the web. Typically, users will pay a monthly fee to use the application, and this is called software as a service, or SaaS. Right now, we're looking at how we're doing things internally, but not only for ourselves, but for our clients too. And we're trying to really come up with good, expandable processes and ways in which we can grow our team easily. The developers, under the lead of Stuart, have totally changed their approach to software development. We kind of work in tandem and following a series of requirement gathering workshops. Stuart and I, excuse me. Sorry about that. This Guinness doesn't work. Stuart and I will document the proposed solution of the problem. Our user experience discovery workshops flesh out the extent of the problem and how our solutions can improve the situations where possible. And we also try and add value. It's been a privilege to see these processes work out well and to really engage with the clients. We see this as one of our core values, and that is building a long-term relationship and doing really meaningful work without any hard sell or without any jargon. We're developing software to help people work on their businesses. A strong understanding of the people in the organization is what keeps us going. We're not just building a product they'll use, but hopefully something that they'll grow attached to. Plansai is our flagship product. It allows you to automate the workflow management processes you do week in, week out. Since I started, I've been making minor tweaks to the user flows, as well as working on a reline of the marketing website to increase conversions and build traffic. To give you a quick overview, Plansai, it's probably easiest to give you a demo. Cheers, mate. So I'm going to talk about how Plansai has simplified my life recently. Delicious water. In Crafty Devil, we have started to share our company's Twitter account. It's quite a daunting thing, and we're finding that out. Each week, someone on the team is responsible for tweeting at least twice a day. We wanted to increase our reach on Twitter by posting relevant links and timely content with also our own voice on it. So I'm just going to show you a quick demo of Plansai and how I've used it for that. So as you can see here, this is the plan I've created. There are 2 tasks per day reminding the user to send out some tweets. On a Monday, users have to set themselves up with the account, become familiar with Twitter, the guidelines, and also the app buffer we use to queue things. As tasks are completed, they're checked off, and this progress can be monitored down the side here. So if I'm assigning this to someone in the organization, I can track their progress, and there's an accountability there. So if they haven't been checking off the tasks, then I can have a wee word in their ear. In the few weeks that we've introduced this system and automating the reminders, our number of followers on the Crafty Devil account has actually increased by 20%, so it's been a bit of a success. Planzai, I think it's magic. It's just so super smart, and I'm really in admiration of the effort that goes into improving the product on a daily basis. And I started a project just to initiate a redesign and a realignment of the marketing website. I started on paper, sketching out some ideas and consulting with my colleagues and seeing what they think of it. We gathered some requirements internally, figured out a timeline for the project, and then executed. So we wanted a site that could grow with our content, but also something that was easily changeable and optimized for specific keywords and conversion tracking, and also the odd bit of A/B testing. So this is the site. I'm pretty happy with how it's turned out. This is an early version, pretty much 1.1 I call it. We have an ongoing development plan for the site. There were some things that didn't make the cut in this version, like in the masthead. I had visualized a lot of kind of animation, well, subtle animation that would really kind of build the effect of the magic that's going on behind the scenes in Planzai. We found that treating the site like one of our own clients has let us build upon it. We believe that iterating is the best way to improve. Every time you work on a piece of code or a piece of interface design, you can add value, you can make a difference, you really can. I think that's a pretty nice thing. When I was learning my craft, experimentation was key, especially with new techniques, things I didn't really know what they were for. So I would download example tutorials and set to work dismantling them and really figuring out how things worked. If you're not designing as many logos as you like, or you're not doing anything you're interested in, why not look around you, close to home? Have you got a friend that you could maybe be designing the logo for? You could start your own blog. You could learn Rails from the guys at Belfast Ruby. The wider your skill set becomes, the more likely you'll be able to solve a problem on your own. At Crafty Devil, we have a Wednesday hack night where we work on side projects and try out anything newfangled or interesting. Earlier in the summer, Jonathan, myself, collaborated with David Hughes and Paddy Donnelly to bring the world Guessy. It was a simple game that let you predict results from the Euro matches and also to compete against your Twitter friends. It was an enjoyable project. We kind of learned a lot. We got out of our comfort zone there, I think it's fair to say. I was executing SQL queries. I'm a designer, I don't even know what that is. Yeah. So yeah, I think experimenting is key. I've done quite a bit of it, much to the behest of my wife. But yeah, so have fun. You're allowed to laugh at that, she's not here. So I was rereading the book as I was preparing these slides. It was Whatever You Think the Opposite by Paul Arden, who's sadly no longer with us. And this quote really stuck out to me. I think it's okay. Don't worry if it's not perfect. You can make it perfect. So what does the future hold? When I was designing this slide deck, I was thinking about the context. The slide deck being the forum. I was thinking about you people have had a long day at work. You're sitting in a dark room. It's a relaxed atmosphere. We want to keep things quite dark. Keep the focus central. And from previous experience, I've known that the projector isn't fantastic, so if I was to do something on a white background, subtle colours, it wouldn't come across. So I was being sensitive to the context of this room. Our bodies are very sensitive to light, and we need light to be healthy. But what if our smartphones could become smarter and truly responsive? Built in 2010, Tim Van Dam recounted a tale of how he had built the version 2 UI of Koala. It was a really nice piece of interface design, but it was largely dark green. Tim noticed his shortcomings when he took the phone outside, and his interface was basically a mirror reflection. So his design really wasn't suitable for the context it was in. It wasn't reacting to the light. Microsoft are doing some interesting research in the next release of their Windows Phone. They're actually using ambient light sensors in the front of the device to detect what the light levels are. Some people in the community have also gone as far to come up with some media queries that can use these. I know it's a bit of a faux pas to show code, but I thought this was pretty cool. So if I'm outdoors, I get like a high contrast version of an interface, but if I'm in like a dark atmosphere like this, I get a much more chilled out, easy to read. It's very responsive. I think we've only just begun to scratch the surface of what we can do with media queries and all these smart sensors that are coming through. So, in conclusion, I hope you've found my talk informative. I think if it's your career and you're not liking what you're doing, think about ways in which you can get the most out of your work. Most of us spend a quarter of our week at work, and I can't imagine doing it and being miserable. So do what makes you happy, because life's short. I think that's paramount advice. You need to put in the hours. Working hard and learning the ins and outs will pay dividends. You'll become much more competent and be able to approach problems in a greater, more analytical way. Gladwell said it takes approximately 10,000 hours, so let's get cracking. We need to learn from others. If this is your refresh, don't let me put you off. I hope you come back. There's tons of smart, talented people in this room, designers, developers, doing all kinds of great work in every shape and form of this industry. So look around after this is over, go talk to them. And if you have something to say, write about it, share it on Twitter, and feed the community. We thrive on blog posts and your thinking, and you're the people that are ultimately driving this industry forward. Play more games. Learn from the conventions and games. Become better, level up, focus on your goals, attain your goals, and lastly, manage your workflow with PlanZite. You can sign up for a free account at planzite.com. We'd really love to know what you think about it. Thank you.